Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. With Alpha 3.10.2 now live, we look to the next major Star Citizen patch, which is Star Citizen Alpha 3.11, the Q3 patch. So what do we have to look forward to with that? What else might make it into that patch? And what needs urgent fixing or balance, at least in my opinion? So let's start with when is the patch targeted for? Well, roughly at the moment for the end of September for a live release, but we do know historically from CIG patches that there could be delays. It should go into PTU testing in September at some point, and then go into live as soon as it's sort of like bugs and stability are at an appropriate level. With 3.10, that was over a month late for that live build. So what's on the roadmap? What have CIG said is planned to be in that 3.11 patch? What's the latest information on that? So cargo decks. So these are probably one of the big ticket items for 3.11 in my opinion. These are facilities within rest stops where players can handle all their cargo needs, at least eventually. From dropping off and picking up cargo, but also they're going to be able to buy new cargo equipment and take cargo related missions. So there's a lot of potential gameplay and features coming with cargo decks, though we don't know exactly what we're getting for 3.11 with them. We know that escort missions will be available from the cargo decks at some point. They are whole new floors and facilities on space stations and potentially eventually in sort of like points of interest on the ground. You'll be able to buy and sell there. You'll be able to rent space. You'll be able to use it as an area to trade and potentially rent and buy cargo ships there as well. There's quite a lot going on there. It's an explorable area as well. We might see some bits tied to gameplay. Maybe they'll use some of these assets for missions and that sort of stuff as well. There's improved throw and updates to interaction mechanics planned here as well. So we're going to be able to pick up items and then throw them. So you're going to be able to throw them overarm with left click and underarm with right click, and grenades will also be thrown in that way as well, not instantly thrown when you press G or hold G and then throw them, if you see what I mean. You have grenade arcs as well. They've sort of been working on them, and it's going to be used for things like distraction and puzzle solving, and to sort of add a bit more interest to the game. They could do physics-based gameplay and stuff like that too, like they've shown off like basketball potential games and things like that. So we'll have to see exactly how it's used and implemented, but it's a cool little core feature that will allow a lot of other gameplay in the future. UI and HUD updates are here. We're going to have elevators moving away from the inner thought and buttons and using the like new touch screens. You could also see other HUD and UI updates in the game at this time as well. Missile updates. So missiles are going to be controlled under a dedicated missile operator mode, which gives players the option to select and fire specific missiles while operating in ships. So you'll be able to cycle through them and stuff like that. I'm hoping at the same time we see missile balance and updates to missiles here as well. At the moment in 3.10, you can spam missiles far too easily, they're too cheap, and you can reclaim your ship to get them back. So missiles are just a bit overpowered in my opinion at the moment, and I think a lot of people feel that as well. Obviously I want missiles to be powerful, I just don't want them to be super cheap and super powerful and sort of like all of the super good things. They shouldn't be the always meta. Surrendering and updates to the law system. So expect to see new laws in the game. They always sort of like update the laws. Like cargo decks will probably have their own laws. Any other areas that they add to the game and points of interest will have new laws associated with them. That sort of stuff. You might see some new commodities and items. But with surrendering, you're going to be able to be arrested without losing your life. So you can surrender by coming to a halt and powering down your ship if security order you to do that, and then you'll basically have your ship impounded and spawn in prison if that's appropriate. Again, they've suggested that there will also be a way of surrendering via the sort of action wheel as well eventually. Maybe that will be in 3.11. I'm hoping we see some updates to piracy and bounty hunting gameplay here as well. That's not been confirmed, but it sort of makes sense with surrendering being in there. And we've also seen recently less than lethal weapons like the Preacher Taser in sneak peeks. It's not too hard to imagine that they'll start using the body dragging mechanics to be able to move knocked out or killed players into prisoner pods in the near future. And they've also talked about medical gameplay being planned for early 2021, but we do know that Cloud Imperium have been working on hospitals and clinics as respawn locations and knockdowns more generally, and sort of connected to that is the death animation improvements to 3.11. This is combining updated ragdoll properties with the animation system to make death reactions of players and NPCs feel more realistic. This would be achieved by blending death animations with physical ragdoll simulation, and I suspect that's something that's going to be used for knockouts and going prone and getting knocked around as well. And even very recently, they've started talking about force reactions, which would have you getting knocked around your ship and that sort of stuff. Could that be for 3.11? I suspect we'll actually know pretty soon. It might be for 3.12, it might be a bit later, but sorry, I just went a bit off tangent there. Ships-wise, we have the 100 series, so like the 100i, 125A, and 135C. They're all basically starter ships for, basic starter with the 100 series and touring, I suppose. The 125A is more combat related, and the 135C is much more of a little mini cargo ship. But yeah, they're all basically from the starter line. And we also have the much awaited Mercury Star Runner planned for 3.11. This is a much more of a multi-purpose ship, much larger. It's sort of like, I think it might be my go-to instead of a Cutlass Black for general gameplay. It's going to be good for cargo and data running. It's unlikely we're going to have the data running mechanics in 3.11, and even if we did, it's almost certainly just going to be sort of like a mission that hints at data running, though I'm excited and looking forward to data as cargo when it's in game, and we know that Cloud Imperium have got the UI tools now to build that gameplay loop out. Could there be something new and straight to flyable in 3.11 beyond those ships, though? Well, there are rumours of the RSI Odin gunship. We have no idea where that's going to be in game, though, and they've been building out a refinery ship, though that's unlikely for 3.11 because they're putting the refinery mechanics in 3.12, and there's a Xi'an cargo ship as well that they've talked about. Any of those are at least possible to have straight to flyable in 3.11. However, with the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo planned for around the end of November and something around the 10th of October instead of CitizenCon, those dates being so close, I wouldn't expect them to have anything extra ship or vehicle wise in 3.11, but we'll have to wait and see. Maybe not for the initial release, maybe for a little bit later, who knows. New items wise, we have the Bearing BR2 ballistic shotgun, and very interesting to me, the GP33 grenade launcher. Very much looking forward to seeing a grenade launcher in game. Also, it's going to be interesting to see how it fires, and sort of like, obviously, is it going to fire differently in different atmospheres based on different gravities and things like that as well? Can I deploy mines effectively out the back of my ship with it? That would be great. We are likely to see some new purchasable items and gear in shops beyond those 2 FPS weapons as well. Something that could be hugely important is the server-to-client actor networking rework. So basically updates to a load of the network code. So more specifically, it's listed as improvements to the downstream part of the actor networking responsible for communicating actor state from the server down to clients. This will improve the positioning and movement of other players and NPCs on your client with improved dead reckoning, helping to reduce perceived lag and instances of rubber banding. Less janky moving players. That would be great. That would be very exciting if we had less jank, because it really does sort of like ruin the aesthetic of Star Citizen, having janky people just moving around oddly. In addition to updated network code, they are sort of working on a load of back-end services as well for redundancy and hopefully for better network stability. There are lots of issues that Cloud Imperium have neglected to bug fix, and I'm hoping that these updates will help resolve that, and depending on its implementation and further updates to server-side object container streaming, we could see much more of an enjoyable experience in the persistent universe. So please, no more desync and AI issues is what I'm sort of hoping that will come from that. Less steady case as well, hopefully too. We won't know how deep and how effective that network rework is until it's in our hands though. AI updates. So there's some polishing pass updates on the behavior and balancing for FPS AI and bug fixing. So the goal there is to sort of improve the look and feel of character combat in the game. To what extent is sort of like remains to be seen. It's a bit confusing. If they can just get AI operational and not derpy, that would be absolutely great on the ground. For ships, they've been improving AI ship avoidance systems to identify hazardous entities, such as heavily guarded zones, and steer clear from them and those areas accordingly. With the AI updates, it's very much how are they implemented and what do they actually do? We don't really know until they're in our hands, because they might have this AI is going to do this cool stuff. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And AI has traditionally and historically been pretty bad in Star Citizen up to date. So I'm hoping that we do get some improvements here. We do know they've been working on various other areas of AI as well, and potentially this will be in 3.11. These sort of like ability for the AI to take ammo out of boxes and potentially other AI and players on the floor, and there's going to be more of a variety of loadouts for NPCs when we're doing missions and fighting them. They've been working on spawn lockers, though I think that's a little bit later. There are some planetary updates with ground cover buoyancy, so seaweed and other ground cover elements on water, sort of like simulating buoyancy there, floating, realistically sort of behaving and reacting to water waves, sort of like this is just to enhance the visuals of water on planets. We are getting lighting updates to landing zones, various updates to points of interest, and new points of interest are being worked on, though it's pretty unconfirmed when they're going to land. So we've got stuff like the Arran Halo, the giant asteroid field in Stanton, sort of points of interest with gas clouds and spacescaping and new areas for missions like that. External station and EVA locations and associated missions with that. More updates to Grimhex. We know they're going to be adding its racing and gambling gameplay at some point. They're also sort of working on more defense turrets. They're being built out for stations and points of interest as well. In regards to missions, we don't really have any specifics. The new mission giver at New Babbage at Wally's Bar, Eddie Parr, that he's supposed to be in game at some point. I'm hoping for 3.11, and with this, I would also expect new missions when they put him in the game. There's other missions like the CitizenCon 2019 New Babbage Microtech mission, although that one did end with them going to the Pyro system. The actual mission on New Babbage, where they're going to the facility to copy sort of data, that could be in game at any point, and there's lots of other missions they could potentially do. The Arlington Gang Idris combat mission, so Arlington Gang mission is in, there's a chain in the game at the moment, but it doesn't end with the Idris mission that it's supposed to, and they said they wanted that in a while ago, so we're sort of waiting on that to be in the game. Maybe 3.11, we don't know. We do know that they are trying to sort of get updates to prison gameplay, and there's some plan for 3.11, but exactly what they'll get into the patch remains to be seen. This could range from new ways to escape and missions to do in prisons as well. There are obviously some major bugs that need to be addressed in 3.10 that still are not addressed, and I would expect them to be looked at for 3.11. The most major highlights really being desync, AI spawning, mission accessibility and payout, missile balance, and ship spawning. They're sort of main ones for me. There's obviously loads and loads of outlying ones. There was a huge list of known bugs, which I'd say they're all pretty important with 3.10.2, so hopefully they can get most of those solved. Also, a little bit more love with the game balance as well when it comes to trading and commodity selling, that sort of stuff. General stability. I don't want 30Ks anymore, although 3.10.2 for me has been pretty stable. We know they are working on flight and combat model updates and balance, and will continue to do that throughout each patch. They recently implied as well that they're working on updates to trading and inventory system, but what we'll have for 3.11 again, we're not sure. Connected to that is the iCache, or the item cache, that's been being worked on for a while. It's incredibly important to Star Citizen and will allow for full persistence and eventually like server meshing and all that sort of stuff as well. But they need it both short, medium and long term, and updates to it once they actually get it in the game. Radar and scanning updates are a priority as well, but we don't know where they're going to sort of like jump in the game. Force reactions, as I said earlier, having your character moved and shaken around your ship when it gets hit or damaged when you're not sitting down. They're working on that at the moment. I think it's a little bit too optimistic to expect the Constellation Taurus or the P-52 and 72 docking and undocking in 3.11, but they have shown work on that recently, so it's possible. Something else that I'm hoping to see in Q3 or Q4 of this year is the Gen 12 renderer Vulkan integration stuff. Much more scalable graphics and resource options for the game, allowing for a wider range of PCs to better utilize their hardware when playing, and for the game to be a lot more sort of optimized and polished. More generally, it's going to be hardware neutral, effectively, is the idea with Vulkan. And that's it for this 3.11, what we can expect at the moment video. As I said, hopefully some of those features beyond what is visible on the roadmap will get into the patch, but we don't know what for sure yet. But what do you think? Will 3.11 see delays of what I mentioned? What do you think is likely to make it into 3.11? Do you think we'll see anything else straight to flyable in 3.11? Is there anything specific with flight and combat balances that you'd like to see? What features are you hoping to see in 3.11? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Every month we have a ship giveaway. For August, it's for a Mercury Star Runner, the sort of hybrid data running cargo ship that's supposed to be live and flyable in Alpha 3.11. To be in for a chance of winning that, all you need to do is comment on any of my Star Citizen videos made during August 2020. if you want to further support my channel, then consider becoming a YouTube member via the join button. This will also get you some exclusive content and insight each month. Also, if you're looking for a VPN, I shill for NordVPN. It's a mega affordable and effective solution for added security, privacy, and internet accessibility. Follow the link below in the description for a discount. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the verse.